Live from New York, it's the D&D Daily tonight. Whoa! Thanks for tuning in. Was that lame?
No, it wasn't lame.
Of course not. But guess what, folks? We're live, and we appreciate you tuning in, so you can't edit that out, right?
That's right. You can't tune it out. My name's Joe LaRocca, and I'm really excited to be here at the D&D Loss Prevention News Network event in New York City. I'll be one of your MCs tonight. I'm honored to be here with Amber Virgillo, the co-MC. I'm really excited about working with you tonight, Amber. I've always admired everything you've done, and I know you're going to take us through our agenda, aren't you?
Yes, I am. You're going to have a blast out there. We know you didn't tune in just for my witty banter and Joe's charming smile. We're actually going to give you some value. So let's run through the agenda for tonight. All right, 2:30. ORC and retail industry with Scott Sanford, Barnes & Noble. What do you think about that?
You know, I'm really excited about Scott Sanford talking today. Scott and Barnes & Noble team under Jeff Fulmer have done a really good job in the ORC world, and they have a really unique approach from many traditional retailers. While some take a very long look at how do we take down the head of the snake and really go after those multi-million-dollar investigations, Scott and the team have really developed the knock and talk tactic, which brings case to quick resolution, recovers millions of dollars for the company. It's really excited to hear a different point of view.
Knock and talk. You think he's going to go into that? Can you tell us a little bit about it? You don't want to steal his thunder, do you?
I don't want to steal his thunder, but I can just tell you, it's a little different.
Sounds a little different, huh? Okay, so 3 o'clock, internal growth, positioning yourself for promotion. Now, we know no one out there, especially if you're watching from your desk, is looking for a new job, but hey, how about a promotion? Wouldn't that be cool? So what do you expect from that?
Well, I think that'd be really great. Jim D'Arcy from AMP Markets, I think will do a really nice job just talking about the industry as a whole, the grocery sector. I mean, there's certainly been a lot of movement over the years with mergers and acquisitions, the way the business has ultimately changed, the types of products that grocery stores are carrying today, and that requires a really unique individual to come in with a multifaceted approach to loss prevention, and Jim really knows what he's doing.
Yeah, so some in-depth look at what they can do to develop their personnel and their teams, probably.
That's right.
Yeah, that could be cool. Okay, where are we? 3:20. It's a mutual investment with Bob Sarenson, director of LP for Bed Bath & Beyond. It's kind of a interesting title. What do you think?
Well, okay, I'll tell you this much. Bob Sarenson is probably one of my favorite people in the industry. I think he will really hit it out of the park about whatever he's talking to. Frankly, I have no idea what the session's about.
We have no idea, but we know it's going to be good.
I'm really looking forward to seeing what Bob does. Bob, we're all excited for you. That's right, exactly.
Whoop, whoop. Yeah. In the house for Bob. We know you're going to rule. All right. 3:45. Emerging loss prevention issues. Training is key. Lisa Lebrono, Carol Lehman from the CEO of Exonify. Sounds pretty cool.
It sounds great. And, you know, look, the technology's really changed on multiple fronts. It's changed in the retail stores in terms of how we service our customer and how we ultimately do business. But I think the other part that's changing around us are the service providers and what they're doing in the business to make things quick, efficient, and blend into our operation. How do we do a good job of hiring people? How do we do a better job of training people? And ultimately, how do we make the business more efficient and do a good job in operations?
Because it's really all about the people, right?
That's right. And, you know, the other side of it, too, I think Lisa, as the moderator of this session, really brings a unique perspective. RELA as one of the major trade associations, and Lisa with a background in retail, a background as an attorney, but also now working across multiple industries. She's done a really nice job with the association, and she's seen a lot of service providers, retailers, the new technologies going on. I think she'll do a great job moderating.
And she's an attorney. And everybody loves attorneys.
That's right.
You can't get enough of attorneys, right?
That's right.
Okay.
If I say anything wrong, I might need to ask Lisa's help here.
Well, we're live, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Hashtag Joe's legal problems.
No,
how about that?
Hashtag Amber's personality.
Not really. Don't do that.
Yeah, no.
4 o'clock, North America's conversion to IP. IP, Internet Protocol. How about them apples?
Well, really excited about the conversions to technology. I think that's one more step for how do we deploy on a wide level in multiple stores. You know, the days of just an alarm dinging or no view into the store and really no idea about how business is operating, those days are quickly passing. Really excited about how we bring the new technologies in play, how we connect to the bigger store systems, and how we get IT on the same page with us and blend into the operation that we can share the pipe and the network and ultimately do a really good job.
Well, we're essentially getting the wrap it up sign, so we're going to throw it over to editor-chief, publisher, grand poobah of everything, Gus Downing, for the interview.
Hello, I'm Gus Downing, and this is the D&D Daily LP News Network. And today we have with us Ed Wolf, Vice President of Business Development for WG Security Products, and Tim Gates, Vice President of Sales for WG. WG is a worldwide designer, manufacturer, and distributor of EAS products, and truly prides itself on being an innovator in the field, with their most recent seal tag development and the rollout making a huge impact, being featured on the Today Show and in all of the major publications. This new tag has the potential to virtually stop wardrobing across North America. And with their new Ninja tag, that's specifically designed for two purposes: advanced security of box merchandise and complete ease of use for employees. WG Security Products over the last few years has been making a huge impact in the retail industry. Ed, Tim, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Gus.
Ed, first, can you talk to us about this new seal tag and how it's making an impact across the country?
Certainly. Let me define the wardrobing as you pointed out. What wardrobing is when a customer comes into the store, into any retailer, in this case mostly dresses because of party dresses, they come into the store and they purchase a dress with the intent to wear it to their party and then return it. So it doesn't make any difference what the cost of the dress is because they're not going to ultimately pay anything. It was featured on a program of Sex and the City a number of years ago, and a number of retailers, I mean, everyone who really sells dresses today has a problem with returns, or the rate of return on their sales. So in talking with Bloomingdale's about a year ago now, they expressed this difficulty to me. We didn't make a tag for that process at that time. So I worked with our design team in China and came up with a little plastic tag that self-destructs when the customer takes it off when they're about to go to their party.
It breaks off.
Right.
It's for easy removal from the dress.
Yeah, the customer can break it off without any kind of tools or anything necessary, and as a result, Bloomingdale's places in a conspicuous spot on the dress, mm-hmm. and if you're going to wear it to the party, you got to take the tag off, mm-hmm. and if you take the tag off, then you can't return the tag. Mm-hmm. That was for them it was a huge decision because returns is a major policy within retailers.
And it's sensitive to the buyer and the consumer. Obviously, with I want to return this dress, they're going to be a little more sensitive to that.
Absolutely. Well, a lot of women will buy dresses, 4 dresses in a store, go home and try them on, mm-hmm. and not intend to use them at a party, and then bring them back. So you have to be sensitive to that element of it. But in this case, they had a very high return rate based on the fact that people were renting, if not paying for their dresses.
Well, similar to guys, going out and buying big TVs for the Super Bowl and returning them the next day.
Or when I was at Home Depot buying paint sprayers, spraying the entire house and returning it, telling them that that same sort of problem. In this case, they initiated the program last May, mm-hmm. and in the last 4 months, they've had tremendous results. Mm-hmm. They've had improved sales and reduced rate in returns.
If you look at the total sales of dresses, of high-end dresses, what percentage do you think, from your subject matter expertise, is returned the next day, like let's say a year ago, 2 years ago, after the consumer wears it and she returns it the next day? Can you give me a ballpark percentage?
Well, in certain circumstances, depending upon the cost of the dress, it can be as high as 50%.
So 50% of your dresses can be returned within a week after the person wears it to an occasion.
That's correct.
And this tag eliminates that.
That's correct.
Which increases sales.
Yes.
Long term.
Decreasing returns is a direct debit on sales. So.
Well, because then they have to buy it.
Right.
Okay. And it's gotten some unbelievable press around the country.
It's become very effective, yeah. And we are getting all sorts of inquiries from other retailers now.
Good luck with it.
Thank you.
Good luck with it. And Tim, being a subject matter expert in the hard tag world, you know, WG just released the Ninja tag.
That's correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. You know, I may be new to WG, but this solution for protecting high-value box merchandise, I've been involved since the early 90s, mid to early 90s, with the inception of this. So I've seen the evolution of this type of solution over the years. Number one, it has a proven ROI for the retailer. Some of the facts are with the product, because back in the early 90s, retailers came to us and said, give us a solution so we can openly merchandise our high-end box products. So that's how this whole product line came about. Some of the facts of it are, though, it's a retail applied, retail removed solution. Okay, so it adds cost, it adds operational issues, and it adds merchandising issues, the traditional products. The exciting thing about the Ninja Tag, it answers all of those questions. So you have a product that's given a proven ROI over the years, but with this type of product, you have application in the stockroom or on the floor, you've got removal at the register, you have training issues with the high turnover of associates on the retail floor. There is a constant issue with labor and retraining issues. And you have merchandise flexibility. With traditional cable products, you can't protect every type of box product. Okay, so the Ninja Tag is by far the best innovation I've seen in the industry.
And it eliminates all those wires that go around.
It eliminates all the
time
wires.
it takes to put it together and remove it and so on.
Exactly. It is a multi-alarm, wireless, cableless solution for high-valued box merchandise. So it is easier to use, it is easier to apply, easier to remove, easier to store. You have storage issues at the register. You don't have the cables in the boxes. It takes up less space, and easier to take into the back room and recycle the product. So it by far is the best innovation I've seen in 16 years in this product category. And what it does, it makes a better shopping experience for the consumer.
Certainly.
And it provides a quicker ROI for the retailer.
Well, there you go. Good luck with the product.
Thank you.
Ed, you know, lastly, can you give us a short, brief history or identification of WG security products, and talk to us about anything that's new coming to the market?
Well, we've got a number of new solutions coming this year in 2014. Two in particular. One is that as I talk to my contemporaries in the market, customers of ours, their big issue is service. Is how do we get the product serviced and serviced properly? And one of your former guests has said the exact same thing. And we'll be coming out with systems this year that are self-diagnostic and remote diagnostic. So we will be able to handle about 80% of the issues that we might normally have to send a tech out to the store to fix. We'll be able to fix them within 4 hours. And that should bring a huge relief to the issue of making sure that your systems work and you can protect your stores. The second item is a new floor system, and this new floor system can be applied within a 1/4 inch grout in the floor. So you no longer have to tear up or demolish the floor to put a floor system in. Even our competitors' floor mat system, or even our old floor guard system, you can put it in the 1/4 inch grout, and it'll provide better protection, or has.
So less expensive, less disruptive on the retailer, and quicker and less expensive.
Less intrusive, and actually provides better performance than the two. So it's excellent for remodels of stores where you want to take the pedestals away, but you don't want to dig up the floor. And if you've just gotten tired or sick of the look of pedestals at your mall entrance, it's an ideal solution for that.
Well, from what I understand, a lot of the malls are kind of leaning away from the pedestals, and they really don't like the look of them.
Well, actually, they're leaning pretty hard away from it. We've gotten a number of major mall companies that have said that they don't want pedestals in any of them, whether the first or second floor or anything.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Welcome.
And good luck with your products, gentlemen.
Thank you.
That's it for this episode of the LP News Network, and I want to thank you for watching. And like I always like to say, let's keep them safe out there.
Whoa, WG Ninja Tag. How cool is that? Joe, why don't you tell them why we're here?
Well, pretty cool. My name's Joe LaRocca, and this is our co-MC, Amber Virgillo. We're live in New York City at the Loss Prevention News Network event. This coincides with the National Retail Federation Conference, which is just down the street. We're really excited to be here. We've got an entire day packed full of education sessions. And earlier in the segment, we talked a little bit about the first part of the agenda. Amber, why don't you tell them what's on store for the back part of the day?
Yes, because we're live. Don't know if you guys know that, but we appreciate you watching because we're
We are
making
live.
LP industry history here, right? First ever.
That's right. And with Amber's glowing personality and my half smile, we're all good?
We make a complete smile, don't we?
We do.
Knuckles to the smile.
Hey, I had the black microphone.
I know, we switched.
Swapped it.
Viewers, do you care? Hashtag change up the mics. Hey,
Amber-
we're a little off track, but hey, let's take a look at the schedule. 4:15, taking an AP team and program to not the same level. We're talking about the next level, huh, Joe? What do you expect from that?
Well, look, especially in stores where you have dozens or even hundreds of loss prevention team members, let's call it what it is. There's a third of the people out there that are the future leaders, so the people that in 10 or 20 years from now will be the directors, VPs, and running large organizations. And we need to find those nuggets in the rough right now and spend the time with them to make them quality leaders down the road. There's another third of people that are going to get the job done for you every single day. They love where they are. They're happy. They love the company. They're not going to move. And face it, there's a third out there that we're constantly evaluating. How do we make people better? How do we find the next home for people that aren't performing? And really understanding what drives people, what makes people better, and then hopefully accomplish the business needs, but also give them their dreams.
Yeah, so that's going to be with Jim Conley, Senior VP of Asset Protection for Burlington Coat Factory. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, and Jim's done a really nice job. As many people know, Burlington Coat Factory has really been through a transformational process.
Hired a lot of people in a
Hired
short amount
a
of
lot
time.
of people. He's brought people in from all over the country. And when you start up an LP program and then you bring a lot of new personalities into the mix, it can be a difficult act to juggle, and he's done a really nice job with
More
it.
like a salad bowl instead of a melting pot, huh?
Or when you throw two moderators in front of a camera
Yeah.
in New York.
It's like nonstop talking,
Kinda like that.
nonstop fun. Really, I'd
Nonstop
like
fun.
to say,
Yeah, of course.
nonstop excitement because we're live. I don't know if I mentioned that.
Did you know that dinner's in 2 hours, 43 minutes, and 19 seconds?
Oh, I got the countdown clock.
There we go.
Yum. Okay, so looking at 4:45, the impact of information technology monitoring on employee theft and productivity. Uh-oh.
You know, this is a really exciting one. In the in the first sessions, we're going to hear a lot about technology and how things are evolving. And now we really put all of those tools to use, but we turn them on the inside, and how do we get better at identifying where internal theft exists? If you really believe that we hire the right people and we do a great job training, when ultimately something goes wrong, we have to conduct those investigations. We want them to be quick. We want them to be efficient. We want to maximize the result. Ultimately, we want to move the problem right on out of the business.
Well, plus, I bet you could use some of these technology tools not only to monitor employee activity, but increase productivity operationally, yeah?
That's right. I'm really excited now by the camera technology, and when we lay out cameras in stores and then you're able to use them not just for internal and external theft monitoring, but you're able to look at traffic patterns, you're able to look at dwell time, conversion rates, where people are going, how to maximize efficiency in the business, even giving operations personnel the access to the information so they can run a better business. It's really exciting.
And that's, I think, when you're talking ROI, right?
That's
Ding,
right.
ding, ding. Inner sound effect here for the ROI conversation. Everybody needs to have that conversation with their executives, yeah?
And who's doing that one?
No, we're doing that one right now.
We're doing that one right now? Okay.
Right
well,
now, live.
Look,
ROI.
we better turn on the spigot for ROI. You know, retail sales numbers have been coming out over the last week, and a lot of retailers have disappointed in the numbers. And some of the CEOs and CFOs have said it's definitely weather related. That back part of December with the cold weather, people weren't traveling, people weren't out shopping. I guess that makes for good comp numbers in 2014. But I think that the loss prevention business never ends. When there's low traffic, how do we maximize our efficiency in stores? How do we take that time to improve the technology, the training protocols, and identify how we get better in the new year?
You're really good at this, I gotta say.
I'm not really
Yeah,
good
he's
at
good.
She's
He's
really
good,
good
right?
at this.
People hashtag Joe's awesome.
No,
yeah?
no. Now, hopefully,
Okay, I'm going
You're-
to save him
you're
with that. He
killing
doesn't
me.
take compliments well. I don't know what it is. So,
do not take compliments well.
5:15, we'll move on, live viewers. 5:15, the new customer Bill of Rights featuring Ted, I'm going to butcher that,
Patricus.
Patricus.
With the Retail Council of New York. Ted has done a nice job as the lead association, working after some issues arose here in New York City in November.
What issues are they?
Well, a number of, a few prominent African American customers were stopped by the New York City Police Department and questioned for a variety of different reasons. And this led to some information coming out about retailers and their interworking with law enforcement. Ted is going to share and shed some light on a Bill of Rights that came out in December and how that impacts retailers and the way ahead.
Wow, that's definitely, we're actually right on cue. I'm digging this. Okay, Mike's giving us the wrap-up sign, so we're going to throw it back to Editor-in-Chief and Publisher, Gus Downing. Over to you, Gus.
Hello, I'm Gus Downing, the publisher and editor of the D&D Daily, and this is the LP News Network. And today we have with us Scott Sanford, the Director of Investigations and Training at Barnes & Noble, and also an industry subject matter expert in organized retail crime. Scott's been very involved in the national effort for many years and even helped develop a software program, the ORC Workbench, that helps identify potential online sellers of stolen merchandise. He's spoken at numerous trade shows, industry ORC conferences, and has an absolute unique gift and ability to resolve ORC cases. And we wanted to spend a few minutes with him and get his thoughts about where the industry is going, how we're making progress at fighting this North American epidemic. Thanks, Scott, for being with us today.
Welcome, Gus.
Scott, first, I'd like to ask you, if you look at ORC from an industry perspective, how big is it? You know, is it growing? And if it is, what do you think the primary reasons for the growth is?
Well, you know, it's tough to really put a dollar figure on it, Gus. I know there's a figure that's floated around for years, and certainly it's in the billions, but that's a moving target, and it's forever changing. But certainly it's very big. The primary reasons for ORC and the continued growth, and yes, it is growing, I think starts with, number one, what we've seen anyhow, is the drug epidemic in the country. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of what we deal with are drug addicts, primarily meth and heroin addictions, which drives it fuels the theft in retail stores. You know, retail theft is a nonviolent crime, and you know, unfortunately, the punishment doesn't necessarily fit the crime. Okay. Something else we've seen over the last 5-6 years, when the recession hit, and it hit hard, there was a lot of people that were displaced, people that were not your typical shoplifter. You know, they may have been an opportunist that periodically stole every once in a while, not too often, but they panicked when they lost their jobs. And they perhaps had an online account with an online auction house. And they found an opportunity to augment their income and help pay the bills. And for many, what we learned, because we've taken out hundreds of them, is that it became a very lucrative deal. I mean, it's probably one of the easier ways to become instantly wealthy.
So that they can then take that merchandise, sell it online, and create a cash flow, an income.
Create a cash flow, an income, and the ease and anonymity that comes with that, Gus. It's not, the person that would typically steal from stores and then sell it out of the trunk of their vehicle or at a flea market, it takes a little more work. But to sell it online from your house, that's a completely different story.
And the out of the trunk is really the old school method.
Yes.
And now with the internet proliferation and such, it's much easier for them to sell it anywhere around the world.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so you've got a worldwide customer base, in fact. So in some of what they sell, they make pretty good margin on that as well. So we've seen that occur over the years, and they're not people you'd expect. We've interviewed attorneys, we've interviewed school teachers, a Baptist minister, some very educated people that, you know, they breathe the same air we do, they bleed the same red blood. You'd never look at them twice in any given store. And, you know, I like to think that we've got pretty good awareness in our stores. I probably wouldn't look at these people twice. Some of them are very good at what they do, Gus.
But they figured out a method
Yeah.
to get the merchandise out of the store, go home, sell it online, or sell it at the flea markets. In that we've seen a significant increase over the last 5, 6, 7 years, correct?
Exactly, yeah. So what we've done is we've categorized our shoplifting base as far as the organized retail crime events go. One of two ways. It's either your addict or your more clever
Quasi-professional.
quasi-professional. But they didn't come from that school.
Sure,
They were unearthed during the recession, and we've seen a lot of that. And by the way, a lot of these folks that we interview, they're hitting multiple retailers for millions of dollars, by the way.
Well, and some of that, from our own experience publishing the Daily, we've seen the drug cartels in Mexico involved. We've seen the organized crime groups from Russia and Eastern Europe involved here in the States.
Sure.
So it's basically a gambit of then 3 groups: the drug addiction folks,
Yes.
the professionals that were displaced in the recession, and then we have the professionals, which are really the drug cartels, organized gangs, and so on.
You're correct in that statement, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So,
But in addition to that, you know, there's other drivers of organized retail crime. Let's look at the crime itself and the punishment. You know, we've interviewed people that have 10, 15, 20 or more shoplifting convictions under their belt, yet they've never been tried as a habitual. And many of these shoplifting events are considered misdemeanor events. They've never been charged as a felon either. You look what's happened over the years. A lot of states have actually tried to raise the felony threshold. In fact, I think that's occurring now. They're considering raising the felony threshold from $300 to perhaps $600. You know, and there's a lot of flexing between states on that figure right now. But you know, if I'm a bad guy and I want to steal $500 of merchandise and that falls under the felony threshold, I can do that all day long.
well, that has to do with a lot of the states being broke.
Exactly.
So they're trying to raise it so they don't have to spend as much money in the judicial system.
Absolutely.
Right.
And we interview these folks. You know, we talk to them and find out some of them, first time they're caught shoplifting, they may have stolen 200, 300 times before they finally get caught.
Right.
And then they get that slap on the wrist. There's really no deterrent to not doing it again. You know, that's kind of comes with the turf, and they just wise up from that point. In fact,
Right.
I think there's some statistics floating around out there from, I believe it may have been the National Retail Security Survey years ago, that said that accepted figure was 48 times before they're caught the first time. And I think that the second time after that is 200 times. So
the first time somebody is caught, they're on their 48th
time
incident.
Yes, incident, yes.
And the second grouping is 200th
Yes.
incident.
But again, I've interviewed people that have done it 2,000, 3,000 times and never been caught.
Jeez.
You know, and again, this is with multiple retailers. They've gone on for years. But again, you have to look at these folks, and they don't telegraph their activity as well as some. So it really does take a heightened awareness within your retail group.
Now, if you look at the retailer's response to ORC over, let's say, the last 5 years, how would you characterize it? I mean, what have we done over the last 5 years to fight this problem as an industry?
Well, clearly the industry's evolved, Gus. There have been a change in the way departments are organizing themselves now. There are some departments that have literally went and carved out sub-departments that handle ORC solely, while as other departments have, you know, taken 2 or 3 people and have them babysit, for lack of a better term, the organized retail crime efforts within the organization. Some other departments haven't addressed it at all. But overall, I think there's been clearly a heightened awareness. The industry spoke, and you go to any trade show event nowadays, and on the docket you see the breakout sessions are dominated by ORC presentations.
Yeah, whereas 5 years ago they weren't.
Yeah, exactly.
And we have seen a few hundred jobs created as a result of this.
Absolutely.
Regretfully, but nonetheless a necessity.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, we now have over 30 different ORC associations around the country. and they really have been growing over the last few years. How effective have they been, and how can we improve our performance as an industry and as individual retailers? And for those of you that don't know what an ORC association is, it's a group in a particular market in a city where the public law enforcement community, the police officers and federal folks get together with the retailers, form an association to fight this problem, to work together to solve the issues. So that's an association. I apologize, Scott.
That's okay.
But there's 30 associations now around the country. How effective have they been, and what can we do to make them better?
Well, first, the ORCAs have definitely been a success, bridging the gap between law enforcement, the district attorney's office, and retail loss prevention, retail in general. They've been a huge success. And I'd like to take a moment. I'd like to thank my peers in this industry. Look at George Torres from CVS, Kevin Plant, many folks from Target, and other retailers that have taken the forefront in working with law enforcement partners to develop these ORCAs. That's not an easy job, and they do this on top of their regular day job. So I'd like to pay tribute to all those fine folks that have done that. In regards to making them better, I think that they are evolving. I remember going to some of the first ORCA events years ago, and at that time, some of the law enforcement personnel that were at those events were skeptical, but it grew. I think it's the...
As were some of the loss prevention executives.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Absolutely. Yeah, some of them are still skeptics to this day, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
But the reality is, I think that the cohesion between those two groups, it was inevitable. Law enforcement realized that they're dealing with a much more professional class than they initially gave credit to, and they also realized that they could learn something from the retail sector, and the retail sector soon learned who they could count on to be there for them when they have a case that they're working. As far as making it better, just getting more involvement from the retailers. We're all busy. I make it a point to attend several every year myself. I will never miss La Orca out there in Southern California. That's been a fantastic event, and that's a classic example of...
It's the largest in the nation.
It is the largest, and it's been used as a model for many others to follow suit. So, I look forward to visiting others this year in 2014 that have not
Chief
used.
Ray Schultz in Albuquerque, the man that, quite frankly, pioneered the model itself back in 2006, I believe.
Sure, you're right. You're correct in saying that. Absolutely. So, I think that there's definitely a lot more that we can do through that by inviting perhaps members of the National District Attorneys Association. Although some of the events I went to, I've seen representation from the DA's office. I think that we've got a lot more room for improvement on that front as well.
Good point.
Yeah, absolutely.
So over the last few years, we've seen dozens of states enact ORC laws, and certainly that's helped. But how long do you think it'll be before all the states have laws about ORC, and hopefully the federal government does as well?
Well, you're correct. There's been a lot of states that have passed those bills over the years, Gus, and I've dealt with a few of them and had cases worked under those new bills. Your guess is as good as mine how long it's going to take for all 50 states. I think it kind of goes back to something I was saying earlier as far as the primary reasons. States are confined, budgetary confinements, and they're shrinking the DA's office at times. They're shrinking law enforcement. You look at AB 109 out in California, which called for the early release of inmates. How long before other jurisdictions do the same thing?
Which, by the way, in California, with that particular law that released, I think, 10,000 plus criminals early release from prison.
Sure.
Already, just a week and a half ago, California put in the papers that they have seen an increase in property crimes since that release dates.
Exactly, yeah.
So
the thing with that is, and not to get off track here, but I think it's important to talk about this. I think a lot of people saw that coming.
Yeah.
If they're going to release the prisoners, they have to have a plan in effect that's going to help reduce recidivism as well.
Right.
I believe Florida might be looking at something similar right now. And it's my understanding, some studying I've done, that upwards of 27% of all inmates who are released in the state of Florida right now find themselves back in prison within 24 months. So what can be done on the front end to help reduce that? I think that's very important. And because it's the nonviolent crimes that are being given the consideration and being released, well, it stands to reason that retailers are going to be a victim once again. So I can tell you from personal experience, we've seen it hit our stores as well. Going back to the ORC bills, it seems to me that because of that need to make budget, for lack of a better term, I do believe that the ORC bill is a great opportunity for states. And hopefully, if we continue this path where they're going to conduct early release of inmates, that they put a little more thought into it and what they're going to do on the front end to ensure that these prisoners are given every opportunity not to turn back and commit crimes and back in the same place. So that's beyond me, though.
So, what would your advice be for the industry? How do we get better at this?
Well, I think that we've come a long way, as I said, in the last 5 years, Gus. But you look at where you're currently at within your career. If you're a regional LP manager, director, you can be a director, even a VP. And what do you really know about organized retail crime? I consider myself to be very well versed. 8 years ago, I was not very well versed. It was learning as I went along. And I think that as an industry, there's a need to create some type of certification training where people can learn how to properly investigate.
Good point.
And by the way, there's more than one business model for investigating organized retail crime. We have a unique approach at Barnes & Noble. The knock and talk approach that is common in law enforcement, well, that's just part of it, by the way.
Knock and talk?
Yeah,
I like that.
Where we'll develop cases very quickly. I don't see a need investigating someone for a year and closing the case that way. We're a specialty retailer, so we have to cover a lot of ground quickly. And I think a lot of specialty retailers are in the same boat. You cannot afford to take a body and put them on a case for 6 months or a year, because too much is happening elsewhere while you're devoted to that one group.
I understand.
So we have learned over the years that you can very quickly assemble a case. And through what you learn in Wickler and Zalowski, or John Reed and Associates on how to conduct an interview, that can transcend into an external theft interview. And these people, if it's a drug addict, they very easily give up their co-conspirators. They very easily give up their offense. They will very easily put it in writing and give you a videotape confession. You can take that information and you can reverse engineer that case, Gus. So when they tell you that they've stolen $500,000 in the last 2 years from these 12 stores, and this is where they sold it, and this is who they acted in collusion with, and everything else, well, you've got those inventory records that can corroborate that statement.
Sure.
And you package it all together and you build a world-class narrative on that and you present that to law enforcement. We've been highly successful prosecuting these cases.
Well, which gets back to your comment about the certification potential for ORC investigation.
Exactly. Now, there are times that we'll take and investigate the traditional method that a lot of retailers use this day as well. So what can retailers do? Be open to other investigative approaches.
There you go.
I also think that collaborating with other retailers.
Understood.
And one big thing I think that we as an industry can do is we can try to continue to push the online auction houses. eBay has set a fantastic example that other online auction houses have to, or should rather, follow. I remember back in the day, all the negative press eBay was getting, but we eventually, worked through that, now they are a great partner with retail, and without their assistance, we would not have closed nearly the number of cases that we've closed. So, a lot of good things have come from all this.
Thanks, Scott.
You're very welcome.
Well, that's it for this episode of the LP News Network. I'd like to thank you for watching. And like I always like to say, let's keep them safe out there. And I'll turn it over to Amber and Joe.
We're back live from New York City. It's the D&D Daily. Joe and I are joined with a very special guest, Bob Sarenson. He heard us talking smack about a session coming up, and he said, wait a minute. Joe, over to you.
Well, Bob, Amber had a question for you to start.
It's very important because all of our viewers wanted to know, hashtag live in New York D&D Daily, we want to know. It's a little long, but you get it. What, if we had to turn your iPod on right now, what would it be playing?
iPod. Wait, hold on a minute. Who is an iPod? iPhone. It's iPhone.
iPhone.
You know what? I'll take this from here.
Okay, go ahead. Joe, go ahead.
Bob, thank you for joining us. And as the director of LP with Bed Bath & Beyond, tell us a little bit about your role.
Yeah, sure. Right now, I am overseeing the e-com facilities, as well as overseeing the Bye Bye Baby stores, the Harmon stores, and some aspects of the Bed Bath & Beyond stores. So we're really trying to, get a little bit more updated in regards to reporting structures and all that stuff from a field perspective, and I think it's going really well. I think I'm enjoying myself very much so. Jim O'Connor's been a great leader for us and really has been spectacular, and listening to the ideas, thoughts and ideas I have to bring the company. And then I have great partners in Bill Nichols and Brian Brodus as well. They've been great partners and helped me understand the culture and the nature of Bed Bath & Beyond. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Bob, I have to confess, I've known you for a number of years, so I'm going to confess right on camera. Earlier when...
Get a tight shot on this guy. The sweats.
When we were talking earlier and we were talking about sessions...
What's your title? Let's take a look at it. It's a mutual
it's a
investment.
mutual
It's a little cryptic, to be honest, Bob.
I had no idea what you were talking about. So give us just the elevator pitch. What are you talking about?
Sure. The reality is there has to be investment on both sides. There's got to be an investment from the employer side and investment on the employee side for how they're going to develop themselves throughout the company and to be a better professional for that organization.
That's awesome. This is Bob Sorensen with Bed Bath & Beyond. And I'm really excited. I think Scott Sanford with Barnes & Noble, the session you just watched, Scott did a really nice job talking about the major categories of organized retail crime that we're seeing, especially as it ties to drugs. Amber, I think over the
He throws it to me. That's weird. Is that weird?
Over the
he throws
past,
it to me after drugs. I don't even understand that. But hey, we'll roll with it.
Well, over the past couple of years, law enforcement and retailers have been saying more and more of these organized retail crime cases are connected to drug activity. And Bob, I guess I should ask you, in the organized retail crime world,
drugs.
No drugs. Just
I'm joking. I'm joking. It's no
we're
big
seeing
deal.
this issue
Well,
about.
I did have a stint at Duane Reade, so I'm very familiar with.
That's what we were talking about. What were you talking about?
That is actually a big deal for what they're going in for, OxyContin, oxycodone.
That's right.
So it's really something that from that perspective, from the pharmacy perspective, it's a real opportunity there, as well as opportunities in the big box stores such as Walmart and Target, and obviously they're making their way up. When they're making their way up to 95, we know they're going to stop all along the way, whether it's the Bed Bath & Beyonds or any other retailer out there. So
it's very serious. We're certainly not making light of ORC. Not here, not today.
That's right. In that
That's
corridor, the
serious
I-95 corridor from Florida to New York, these retailers are just getting hammered constantly. And Bob, tell us a little bit about, you mentioned a number of people on your team. I think I've met most of them across the country, and they're fabulous to work with. Tell me a little bit about how this mutual respect, how do you drive that into the store management culture?
Yeah, I think one of the things that is important is, understanding each other's roles. Once you understand everybody's role, the role of the LP person, the role of the operator, the role of the human resource partner, the role of the warehouse people, I think you gain that respect, you gain that mutual admiration, a better understanding of what roles and responsibilities are. And then, again, as I'll talk about in my session, it's how you leverage those relationships that you're going to be building in the field to help you within that organization or maybe even another organization down the road.
He's still selling his session, folks. I think it's going to be pretty good. But the biggest thing is we have an off-camera question, and the viewers want to know. I mean, this is just straight hot off the press here. If you were going to go on vacation with Gus Downing, where would you guys go?
Do I have to go on vacation with Gus Downing?
I hear he likes the tropics. What do you think?
I think you might be right. I know what my choice would be. My choice would be Marathon, Florida, but I don't know.
A shout out to Marathon, Florida. That's funny. That's where the question came in from. Do you know someone in Marathon, Florida?
I do not.
Come on, just say it. Just say it. Just say it. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom in Marathon, Florida. Thanks for tuning in live. We're live D&D Daily here in NYC, the greatest city of all. Joe, what do you have to say about that?
Well, Bob, since Amber's asking you off-camera questions, I think I'm going to throw one in too. Jonathan Quick goalie for the Los Angeles Kings hockey team.
Who doesn't know who Jonathan Quick is? Hands up out there. I don't see any. Go ahead. Sorry.
Who's Jonathan Quick, she asks. Oh, he's only the starting goalie for the Olympic team. Bob, you know Jonathan Quick. You were actually working with him many years ago. Tell me a little bit about what's Jonathan like in real life?
Well, I can't tell you what he's like today because I haven't seen him in many years. But as a kid, he was a freckled kid who was just like any other kid. And long story short, he wanted to give up hockey at the time when he was at my goalie camp. And we got him to get back on the ice and continue to play. So I feel I'm totally responsible for his success in life.
And you know what? And that's, Bob, that's why you are so successful, is because you're able to
And he's humble.
drive
He's
that
humble. That's the
motivation
biggest
into
thing.
other people.
That's the biggest thing. It's humility. I think you heard it here first with Mr. Bob Sarenson. You got to be humble, really. And if you can fake that, you're golden, right?
That's right.
I think we should take a look at what's coming up. Don't you think?
I think so. I think
Okay.
that's a good idea.
Let's see. It's not you. It is internal growth, positioning yourself for a promotion. Yes? I think, are we ready? Are we ready? Or we're still talking? No.
Okay, I think
we're
we're
going
ready.
to throw it over to Gus. I mean, you guys you're ready, right? You're ready. Here's to
ready.
you, Gus.
Hello, I'm Gus Downing, publisher and editor of the D&D Daily, and this is the LP News Network. Today we have with us Jim D'Arcy, Vice President, Loss Prevention and Food Safety at A&P Grocery Stores, a retailer with over 250 stores, doing over $6 billion in volume. Jim joined A&P in 2009 after spending 6 years at Home Depot. Over the last 5 years, Jim's been promoted 4 times. We thought it would be a great opportunity to sit down with him and talk about how he positioned himself for growth and internal promotion. As all of us obviously want to be successful, one of the keys is positioning yourself. And with his success, we wanted to share it with you. With that, I'd like to thank you for being with us today,
Thanks,
Jim.
Gus.
Nice to see you.
You too.
First, we'd like to congratulate you on your success at A&P,
Thank you.
and would love to know how you did it. But let's first look at one of the comments you made to me in a recent email about embracing the company culture. Eat, sleep, and breathe the company culture. Can you explain that and give us some examples, which include your playing Santa Claus on an executive holiday bus tour? And yes, I wasn't going to let you out of that one.
I
I had to
figured you
bring that
wouldn't.
one up.
I figured you wouldn't.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so corporate culture is heavy duty stuff, right? And organizations spend a lot of time and effort creating corporate culture. So for me, being promotable is about living that brand, right? It's about taking that corporate culture to the stores and to the corporate office every time you come in, bringing in your game face. I remember my first day in loss prevention. We had a 2-day orientation, and coming from law enforcement, I don't think I was as prepared for retail as I thought I was. So on my first day, I walk into a break room of a major retailer, and I had gotten there probably about 5 minutes before the time had started. But as I walked in the room, there was a young lady standing on top of the break room table, screaming the company chant. So after that day, and I joined in, and after that day I walked out to the car and I got a phone call from my significant other, and she said, "How was it?" And I said, "I think I've joined a cult." A year later, after breathing in that culture, wouldn't you know that I'm the person standing on top of the table and cheering, right?
Good for you.
So with respect to Santa Claus, as a director of loss prevention, I was asked.
Something I've always wanted to do, by the way. Go ahead.
Absolutely hysterical, and there are plenty of pictures and documentation of the event from my team. So I was a director of loss prevention at the time, and the executive management team was looking for a candidate to play Santa Claus on the holiday bus tour they do. They go around to all the stores and spread some cheer. And it took a lot, but I swallowed my ego. I swallowed my pride. I put on the Santa suit, and I did the absolute best Santa impression I could get. And I'd like to think that, although a very small part in what I did to get promoted, I think it played some type of role in that promotion, because not only did the executive management team appreciate the hard work I had been doing, but I think in the back of their heads they remembered that, hey, Jim is that kind of guy who's going to step up and swallow his pride and play Santa Claus on Christmas, right? So I think that has a little part in where I am today.
Sure. That was a great story.
Thank you.
Yeah. One of the other points you made to me recently talked about work ethic, rolling up your sleeves and demonstrating a strong work ethic. Can you talk to that for us?
Yeah, I'll tell you a story. So in a past life, I was working for a retailer as a single store LP manager, which, by the way, was the best job I ever had. So I was a single store LP manager, and we had a terrible storm that came through New Jersey, and it overflowed a river, and that river flowed through my store. And what I mean by that is 12 to 18 inches of water throughout the entire store. So the recovery effort was massive. We had hundreds of thousands of dollars in product damage, and as the LP manager, I kind of took on the leadership role in that recovery effort. My district loss prevention manager at the time had gotten some resources from throughout the region, and there were about 100 or so LP folks working in the building to help. So 2 or 3 days into the recovery effort, the regional loss prevention manager was visiting the store to see how the effort was going, and I was absolutely terrified, thinking, you know, you get such little time with someone of that stature. I really wanted to impress. Well, she got there early, and I should have expected that, and I was riding an electric pallet jack down one of the aisles, and I was covered in the most unbelievable slime you could believe from river water, and I stopped, I wiped my hand off, I introduced myself. I answered 1 or 2 quick questions, and then I quickly got the nod from my DLPM to go clean up. I went and did that, and by the time I had gotten back and finished up what I was doing, she was already gone. So I asked my DLPM how I did, and he said that her comment was, "We need to promote more people like that."
There you go.
So for me, demonstrating a great work ethic is just working your butt off, right? I remember some of the most promotable people I have on my team, or most successful people, is the guy that was packing down in aisle 6, sweating his butt off, right? The kid who ran to the back room to pick an order. Those are the guys that I want on my team. So for me, loss prevention can be taught, work ethic cannot. So if you're going to get in the game and you're looking to get ahead, have a strong work ethic.
Well put.
Thank you.
You know, another point you made to me, Jim, was about being accurate, knowing the data, be able to back it up, all your claims and what you're putting forward, you know, and what you say, and not being afraid. And here's a key comment I've always found in my career, is not being afraid of saying, I don't know.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. As I moved up the ladder, I quickly found that my opinion held less water than I thought it would, and that successful organizations rely on pure facts and vetted data. So I would tell you that as you move up the ladder, it's more and more important to make sure that you're giving recommendations based on accurate data as opposed to assumptions or opinions. I've been in positions in boardrooms with CEOs and my peers, other vice presidents, and been asked questions that, without having hard, concrete, cold data, I've reverted back to, you know, I just don't know. Right,
which takes guts to do in such a meeting.
Sure, and but without that, you make an assumption, you give an opinion. It's not factually based, and it will come back to bite you. I'll give you an example. As an executive, you spend a lot of time kind of doing kind of like a trauma nurse, right? As an executive, you really need to understand what the fires are. So when one of my direct reports tells me we have a major problem, stores are failing something on an audit, it's a major problem? Yeah, it's a major problem. Which question is it? It's this question. Well, it looks like about 85% of the stores are passing it, right? So the difference between a major problem and 85% is staggering.
And having that data right there during the meeting.
Absolutely. Being prepared and having your data accurate is absolutely critical to making yourself promotable.
You know, you made another comment to me about a lateral move isn't always a move backwards. In how when your boss asks you to do something, you get it done with passion, and how important it is to love what you do.
When I was promoted to a regional launch manager, I was on top of the world. I remember being giddy, driving home and calling everyone I knew, and I felt like it was the pinnacle of my career. So I had, I don't know, 7 or 8 district loss prevention managers that were reporting to me. I spent 6 months building a new culture of change, which isn't very easy to do. After 6 months, I was reaping the benefits of all that hard work, and my boss called me, who was new to loss prevention. We were reporting to the VP of Ops, and he said, Jim, I need you to come up to the corporate office temporarily and work here. Now, at the time, I thought, why would I give up all this responsibility and all this power to go and work in the corporate office with a small team? So I did what in my heart I knew was the right thing to do. I said yes, because he told me to, right? But it was the best move I made in my career. It gave me that corporate exposure. It put me in a position to rub elbows with a lot of the decision makers. So although at the time I thought it was lateral, maybe a step back, it was the best decision I made in my career.
Great move. You know, and now here's a quote from that conversation we had, and I absolutely love it. Being promotable is about supporting the overall business objectives before your own. Execute at a high level. Know your business, work hard, and treat every person like a customer, and I promise you'll get that promotion. Now, that's your comment. Now, can you talk to the one point which I feel is critical, and how to treat every person like a customer? Can you speak to that?
I can. I remember when I first got to the corporate office with 350 stores of responsibility, I was panicked about getting the most upper tier, most important items done every day. And then I'd have, let's see, an admin for an executive come and tell me, Jim, we have a major problem. Great, what can I help you with? Well, you see, every day someone's parking in the Associate of the Month spot that doesn't deserve it, and we need to get to the bottom of it. Now, in the scope of all the things that we had to deal with that day, probably way far on the bottom, right? But treating everyone like a customer and getting those things done is memorable. That person is forever going to remember that you made them the most important person in your career that day, and forever will speak good things about you. It's going to create a buzz about the level of service that you're willing to give to your peers, and it's all about internal networking. Very, very important.
And lastly, you talked about how your family influenced you. You're in your work ethic and all of these components together in the beginning of our conversation.
Sure.
You know, how your family influenced your whole career. Can you share that?
Yeah, I think my family influenced my career twofold. Number one, I have a brother who's just a little older than me, who by nature of being boys and growing up, we were very competitive. I got into law enforcement, he got into law enforcement. I joined the fire department, he joined the fire department. We were captains at the same time in 2 firehouses. So I think having that competitive nature with a brother, although it was certainly loving, we're best friends, having that competitive attitude with my brother certainly helped my career. On the other side of that, to the extent you don't have a sibling you can compete with, my family was instrumental in being a mentor to me. My father had a long, excellent career in law enforcement. My brother, the same. We're all overachievers. So having a mentor to kind of bounce major decisions off of was absolutely critical, and I'll tell you that if you don't already have a mentor, you better find one.
There you go. Well, I'd like to get a picture of you in the Santa suit for the Daily.
I'll send it over to you.
Please.
Absolutely.
I think everybody would like to see it. Jim, I want to thank you for sharing your story with us. We appreciate you taking the time. And on behalf of the viewers, I can say it's obvious how you got promoted 4 times in the last 5 years.
Thank you, Gus.
Well, that's it for this session of the LP News Network, and I'd like to pass it back over to Joe and Amber.
Good afternoon. My name is Joe LaRocca, and I'm joined here by co-MC Amber Virgillo. We're live in New York City at the Loss Prevention News Network D&D event, which coincides with the National Retail Federation annual Big Show right down the street. We're really excited to be here this afternoon. As you know, we're broadcasting live. We have some great sessions in store for the balance of the day, and we've already heard from a few really talented speakers about what's going on in the industry. And right now, we have a special guest. Amber, why don't you introduce Ryan?
All right, Ryan, this is live. Don't know if you picked that up when Joe was talking about it. So it's really no pressure at all. Just
None.
look right into the black box. So since we've got you on the hot seat, this is Ryan Bouse, Asset Protection and Operations Manager. Did I get that right?
You did.
With
Right on.
Harris Teeter Supermarkets. So Ryan, tell us, why the D&D Daily event? Why NYC? Why today? Other than, Joe and I's lovely personalities.
Look, the D&D has been my hot spot, my go-to spot for industry news. So when I had the opportunity to come here tonight, I jumped right on it.
So would you say you open every D&D that comes in that inbox? 5 minutes, 10 minutes? How long does it take you?
It takes me about 5 seconds
5 seconds.
every time.
How about that?
I've got one coming in right now.
Oh,
Oh,
breaking news on the D&D. But keep watching because we're live, as
We
they
are the
said.
breaking
We
news.
are the breaking news right here. So Joe, you had a couple questions for Ryan.
yeah, Ryan, tell us a little bit about what your role is at Harris Teeter.
Well, as the operations manager, I oversee a lot of the corporate function and field functions, investigations, and things like that.
Great. Ryan, a number of different grocery partners work together. Tell me about your relationship with other retailers, law enforcement. What are some of the biggest challenges you think you're facing now that, as an industry, we tackle together?
Yeah, I think some of the biggest challenges is some retailers aren't communicating with law enforcement.
Sorry, you're on the hot seat. I got to make it a little warmer in here, right?
Yeah, so we definitely make it a point to make sure that we're reaching out to our law enforcement partners and making sure we close cases quickly and sharing information.
So Harris Teeter, a friend to all.
We
That's
love
pretty
we
cool.
love Harris Teeter. Actually, in Washington D.C., you were my hometown grocery store,
That's
right down the street. Went
I'm
there
pretty
all the
sure he's
time.
asking for a discount. Are you asking for a discount?
Our best customer.
I must have been one of the best customers. I don't know. So Ryan, tell us a little bit about you're here in New York, and on a weekly basis, what do you do as the operations manager?
Really, it's about finding ways to protect the company's assets any way we can. Our philosophy's really been what loss prevention or asset protection means to Harris Teeter, and that means really getting our hands into everything and affecting profitability the best way we can.
So I've got a breaking news question again. It was hashtag we want to know from Ryan. Is that joke getting old? Because it doesn't feel old. I don't know.
We're gonna have to check these on Twitter when we're all done.
Twitter's blowing up right now.
Oh no.
Blowing up. We're trending. I think
trending.
that's easy to say. We're
We
trending.
are trending.
But the question is, if you had a superpower, that's right, what would it be?
Invisibility,
How does that help you?
like right now.
Oh, you're killing us.
Bump.
Amber, why don't you tell us a little bit about the sessions for the balance of the day?
Yes, for those that just tuned in, it's live from New York, the D&D Daily. Did we cover that?
We did.
I think so. Okay, so up next, emerging loss prevention issues, training is key. That's right. No, it's Bob Sarenson. How did we forget
Bob
that?
Sarenson.
Bob
We love Bobby.
Sarenson. We love Bobby. We're even going with the nickname. So, but after Bobby, we've got emerging loss prevention issues, training is key with Exonify and Lisa LeBruno. Then at 4 o'clock, can you read that right there?
North America's conversion to IP.
IP meaning?
Internet protocol.
I had to feed you that answer. What is that?
I'm not an IT guy, but I'm sure it has
We
something
are
to do
live.
with
It's a
being
lot
online.
of pressure standing up
Oh, it is the hot seat,
It is
folks.
really the hot
If
seat.
you're hating it out there, come on over. We'll put you in the hot
Yeah,
seat.
come on,
See
you
how you
stand
do.
right here with us.
That's
Come
right,
on.
the hot seat. It's no joke. So then 4:15, taking an AP team and program, not just the same level. We're talking about the next level. That's got to be pretty interesting. So then 4:45, the impact of information technology monitoring on employee theft and productivity. Everybody's favorite. Yeah?
That's right.
How are we doing so far?
We're doing great.
Mediocre.
Mediocre.
Awesome.
no.
Awesome event.
You know what, Amber, I'll tell you what I'm most excited about.
Let's
is
hear it.
Working with you.
Oh, here we go.
Because-
Hashtag Amber's compliments.
Amber's compliments, and you have lipstick in your teeth.
Ah,
I'm just
he's
kidding.
killing me with the lipstick on my teeth comments.
So, it's really exciting to be here in New York live
Live.
too many times.
Too many. You can never.
Working on
History.
really history.
History.
We are setting, this has never been done before.
History.
We have
History.
a really incredible group of retailers, service providers, all connected to the Loss Prevention News Network and the D&D. And I know Gus isn't one for compliments, but I'll say
We
this
shout
now.
out.
A big shout out
Big
to
shout
Gus.
out.
Nobody else has done this before, not live. And
Certainly.
the fact that we're surrounded by some really great friends and really big supporters here. We have a very nice dinner in store for a group here in New York City. So mark this on your calendar. Next year, during the NRF's big show in New York City on Monday night, Downing & Downing hosts their annual dinner. We'd love to see you here next year if you're watching on the internet.
Put it on your calendar. All right. What are we up? Are we up, Mike? Or we're 2 more minutes. So we're just going to, this is what they call in the biz, draw it out. Keep talking. It's no big deal.
No big deal at all. So
Ryan, come in here for the real thing.
No, actually, you know what? Let me, so I haven't been on the internet in about an hour now. So let me just say that I think there's really 2 big issues that a lot of people are talking about right now. Of course, one is the breach at Target that was announced back in December, just prior to the holidays. And then obviously on Friday, Neiman Marcus followed up and announced a breach as well. And I think that retailers across the country are asking the question, who's next on the list? Reuters broke over the weekend there were 3 additional retailers that were the victim of a cyber attack and a data breach. Those weren't released as of an hour ago. You never know when things change. But I think, and you hear a lot of
So what
buzz
can
in
they
the
do,
industry.
right? I mean, not all bad news here at D&D, right? What can they do?
Yeah.
What can retailers do, Joe?
Well,
What
I
do you think?
I think Greg Steinhoffel went on this morning and did a really nice job with Target talking about why did they wait 4 days to break the news to the public and what sort of prep went into securing the systems and protecting customers. The next day, really identifying how do they plan and notify law enforcement and get all the pieces working. That third day to prep on the information release, and then the fourth day when they released it, ultimately hammered by calls and emails and obvious concerns by the media. In the Neiman's case, they released it. It went public over the weekend, and now more retailers to follow. But this is a really good time, just that reminder of how important it is to work closely with your IT department, the operations team, the PR team. And I think we're just about ready for our next segment.
Yeah, about to wrap it up. All right, we're going to toss it back over to D&D Daily editor and publisher Gus Downing. Over to you, Gus.
I'm Gus Downing, publisher and editor of the D&D Daily, and this is the LP News Network. And today we have with us Bob Sarensen, the Director of Loss Prevention for Bed Bath & Beyond, a retailer with over 1,400 stores in North America, with 4 different brands, doing well over $11 billion in sales annually. Bob is a 20-plus year LP industry veteran who successfully led loss prevention teams and programs at a number of retailers. His approach and philosophy has always been based on basic core beliefs that have been very successful. And we wanted to share one with you today that he brought up recently in a conversation with me, and it's about the relationship between your career, your progress, and your employer, the retailer. And the fact that the relationship between the two is a mutual investment on both of your parts. With that, Bob, I'd like to thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Gus. I really appreciate the time.
Can you talk to us about that mutual investment theory?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this all started many years ago when, you know, you're interviewing people for positions, and you go through that interview process and you ask that proverbial question, you know, where do you see yourself 5 years from now, 7 years from now? And, you know, the person's pretty quick to come back with an answer saying, well, I'm going to be in your role. I'd like to see myself further in the organization, doing something, you know, at a higher level. And then the next question is, well, how are you going to do that? How are you going to get there? And then you find this glazed look over their face, and they're kind of looking around the room, and you know, there's not really a plan of action there, and you know that. So, you know, that really started the impetus of what we wanted to do back in my days at RUS, of, you know, how do we make an investment in people? And then the second part of that is, how do people make an investment in themselves? So, you know, from my perspective, I think, you know, both parties have that obligation. And it really comes down to the companies having a clear, defined path of where you can go within the organization. Once you come in, you might come in as a loss prevention person, but maybe something else intrigues you, such as human resources, maybe it's operations, maybe it's warehousing. So as I get into my role, how do I get into these other aspects of the job or of the company? And then I think it goes the other way too. There's some great people in other parts of the company that might want to come over into the loss prevention side of the business. And we don't ever leverage that enough back then. And those were some of the learnings I had from a company perspective. The other side of that is, the people, the employee, and how that employee takes ownership of what they need to do. And that might be, asking the right questions. Like, what is it that I need to do to get ahead? What is it that I need to do to get into that next level? What is it that, who can help me get there? It might not be the person you're working for. It might be someone else in another part of the company that could help you move forward within an organization. So how do you build that relationship, that trust, to be able to move forward in an organization?
So it's about the person asking the right questions, putting a program together, and the organization being open to it and communicating back to the executives.
Absolutely. I think from any executive level wants the best of the best, right? And to get the best, you might have a lot of crown jewels and you just don't know it, because they might be very good at other aspects of the business that they just haven't had a chance to do it. And I think that's one of the things that I really enjoyed in some of my other retailers, is that we moved people around. I took operators and put them in LP into operations, LP into human resources, and I think that really made, as a company, everybody was more aware of everybody's roles and responsibilities. And we asked better questions, and we had a better understanding of how to move the business collectively. But again, people who don't drive that, the people who don't understand, hey, listen, this is the skill sets I need to work on. This is what I'm lacking. I might be lacking some skills. How can I get better at it? Does the company offer LMS sessions, learning management systems that you can go in and truly try to learn some basic aspects of what you would need to learn? It might be report writing. It might be how to write a review for somebody. It might be your communication skills. It might be presentation skill sets. So all of that stuff should be available. We should make that available to people. It's funny, I'll go back to a story of one time when one of my associates said to me, Bob, I really want to work on my presentation skills. What can you do for me? And I said, well, the question is, what can you do for yourself? And he looked at me and he said, well, aren't you supposed to be here to help me? I said, that's what I'm doing right now. I am helping you. I said, what kind of research have you done on your own to figure out what you could do to help your presentation skills?
Getting them to take responsibility for it.
Getting them to take responsibility. And you know what? That person ended up joining Toastmasters International. And they ended up becoming a certified Toastmaster. And it took them some time to do that, over months and over a year time frame. But ultimately, he ended up being one of the best presenters in our company, and which helped him also, by the way, make connections outside of our circle, and got him a job not only within our company, but later on, when he left our company, in other companies.
But that executive had the courage to come to you and talk to you about it and ask that question.
Absolutely, and I think that's what you need. You need to be courageous. You need to take responsibility of your own career. You need to ask, again, getting back to the right questions and being able to don't. I always tell people, you wouldn't go into an executive, board meeting and not be prepared. So when you're talking about your career and you're talking about moving forward in your personal life, I think you need to be prepared to have those conversations. And if you don't do your homework before you go in there, well, again, you're not taking that personal responsibility. And again, from the company standpoint, be open, listen to what they're asking for. If you don't have something in place, you should consider putting something in place, because there's probably more than one person asking that question.
If the company doesn't have something in place, doesn't have a line of communications open for the executives to flow through and look for career opportunities, promotions, cross-pollination, whatever, what do you suggest to the executives?
Well, I would tell you time and time again, you got to keep on pounding the pulpit. I think you got to keep going back to them. I think most HR departments are understand, hey, listen, we got to do things for our associates and moving forward. Talent development understands that. I would say continue to do that, continue to drive that, and also do something on your own and prove it to the organization that it works. prove it that hey, listen, I went out and I joined Toastmasters. I think we should have a Toastmasters International Club right on premise, because this is what it's done for me. This is what I have learned from that process. And now if we did that for many of our associates, how much better can we be in this venue?
But it also takes a leader that's open enough
Absolutely.
to be able to kind of take that input and help those executives as well, correct?
Absolutely. I think you need to understand your responsibility as a leader. You need to understand that taking that step forward and telling people, hey, listen, this is what needs to be done, and here's the reasons why, and we all benefit from that. You talk about like things that go on in normal everyday life in retail. Markdowns. We talk about markdowns. Talk about margin, right? Retail math 101. A lot of people getting into retail don't truly understand retail math. You could talk to several leaders in the LP industry. Shrink's looked at various ways. Right? It's calculated various ways. How many people really understand how shrink's calculated within their own department?
Yeah, good point.
So I think you really need to take that responsibility, number one, and then number two, from a senior executive level, I think you need to be able to be courageous, just like the associate needs to be courageous, and do the right thing for your associates. And sometimes it's going to cost you money. And when I say cost money, I mean that's an investment. It's not a cost of doing business. It's an investment in doing business, and that's going to make your company that much better.
And it's also taking a risk. I mean, moving up is also taking a risk for anybody, any organization.
Absolutely.
So they've got to be willing to take the risk, have the courage to be able to do it and go out and pursue it on their own, so to speak.
I would agree with that. I think I've given a lot of advice to people who worked for me in my past and saw that they couldn't move forward for various reasons and wanted to go do other things, right? And, I think giving them the advice and saying, hey, listen, this is your choice, your personal responsibility. This is about you and your family. And they make that choice. I'm going to make that choice to leave and go somewhere else. I can offer them the same advice as a professional and as a person, but they're taking that risk to move forward because they're in the comfort level of what's here, right? And when they go somewhere else, it's not so comfortable. And, it's a little more edgy and a little more riskier. And I've been down the road before of going to a company that folds 2 years later, and that was risky, and I was in a very comfortable place, right? And then you go there and that happens. So you take those risks, but again, personally, I wouldn't trade those risks and those ups and downs, because that's how I learned, and that's what makes me a better leader, and it makes me think differently than most.
One last question.
Sure.
Okay. What do you say to the executive that's somewhat quiet, somewhat reserved, kind of sits in the back of the room in the meetings and such, but yet they feel stagnant, they want to get ahead, and they really want to succeed? What do you say to that executive about taking charge of their career?
Some folks just don't have that. They're not a type A personality, right? So, again, you have to understand. I'm a sports guy. So when I look at a hockey team, because that's what I'm most familiar with. When you talk about a hockey team, I had 2 teams where I had leaders that wore the C. They were captains, and one guy was type A personality, go go go. The other guy was like the silent, very conservative type. And when that guy spoke, or when the silent guy, the quiet guy, when he spoke, you listened to him and you heard what he had to say. And I think as senior executives, you need to listen to that person. You need to watch their actions. You need to understand what they're doing. So you can then take that and learn and go and ask them, hey, listen, what can I do for you? How can I help you move ahead? Because there are guys who are going to be taking a back seat, and they kind of like taking the road less traveled, so to speak, and be low under the radar. And I think that's our role as senior executives, to be able to pull them out and shine a little bit of a light on them and get them comfortable in that. That's what my job would be.
And I think the adage of don't judge a book by its cover kind of falls there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, thanks for taking the time to be with us, Bob. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Gus. Appreciate it.
Well, that's it for this episode of LPNN. And with that, I'd like to turn it back over to Joe and Amber.
Hi,
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
I thought we talked about this.
I think
Welcome
it's me.
back
Hi.
live.
I'm
Hey.
Joe LaRocca. This is our co-MC, Amber Virgillo. We're live in New York City at the Loss Prevention News Network D&D event. We've had a really great afternoon so far with a number of sessions and a few more planned for you later today. This event is timed with the National Retail Federation's annual Big Show, which is right down the street. Some fabulous service providers looking at the greatest technologies, things that will be out in 2 or 3 years from now, ideas that your CIO and your operations team have. They'll be looking at the equipment right down the street. Today we're joined by a special guest, which I'm going to let Amber introduce.
Yeah, I can't. We're trying to get a word in edgewise, aren't we, Jackie? So we were visiting your booth today and had a fantastic time. Now, Jackie's got a session coming up here, what to expect from transforming to IP video. Yeah, give us a little preview because I totally botched that.
Yeah, that's okay. It's all about making migration to IP accessible to all of retail, not just to global retail, but to small retail. And so we're able to give that to them now in small baby steps that's very manageable and palatable. But what's more important is that it's making cross-functionality of video and all the horsepower you can garner from that video data information accessible to all of retail.
So all of retail, even those that don't have some massive infrastructure that can handle streaming video?
Well, we've made it so simple now that you can do a decentralized where really all of the intelligence is running at the edge of the camera. So you don't need to have an IT infrastructure to support it. You don't need to have a degree in computer electronics or anything to do this. It's all very simple because what we want to do is make it easy to use so that you will use it.
And Joe, you have a degree in computer electronics, no?
No, sir, no degree here. So I have a question for you, and this is, I don't mean to catch you by surprise, but it's one of those.
But we're live.
So, anything could happen. During the recession, a number of retailers were looking for ways of cost savings, and some looked at that shipment process, and rather than taking product during the day when it's busy and pulling staff and management off the sales floor to receive items, they're starting to deliver late night, overnight. The alarm system by itself doesn't always cut it, so retailers want to look into the store. Can you talk a little bit about the unattended delivery process?
Well, yes, we can talk about that. We have now branched out of pure video into actually delivering access control, but in such an easy way where you can just download your software and implement on small door environments of less than 10, very simply. But for retailers, that is your environment. If you can credential the people that are touching your stores and are accountable for your inventory overnight, you can then tie that into video and track the comings of going and what can happen. Because if you can't see what's happening, how do you know what's happening?
And loss prevention folks, they love that visibility, right, Joe?
That's right. We love visibility. We also love to know what's coming next. So I want you to look deep in that crystal